Hello there, Simone here, as always, with some ideas and insights for what to pay attention to when you're in that place where you are getting ready to scale your business. So in the last few weeks, we've talked a lot about some really essential, important pieces that you can't really scale your business without. We've talked about how important it is to set up your culture, how important it is to set up your vision, how important it is to set up your operational plan, to get specific, to make sure that people are accountable, all that good stuff. But I want to come back to the first piece, because while everything is really, really important, while there's no going anywhere, without really making sure that you have a clear plan, you have specifics, you have accountability set up, that you have a real solid plan for where everybody's going, none of that matters unless you have the right people on the bus and they're following some common values. So most of the time when our clients come in, they have some sort of challenge with what's going on internally. Yes, they're missing the clarity, they're missing the certainty, they're missing the plan, the specifics, the setups, all that good stuff. But none of that stuff matters if they don't have the right people and the right values that will actually help them implement. So one of the things that it's not just a buzzword, but that is kind of the guiding principles, the operating principle of your business is your culture. So yes, culture is a buzzword. Everybody loves to talk about it. What does it really mean? Well, what it means to me is this is how people behave when nobody is looking. And for a lot of our clients who have a setup where most of their employees are actually contractors, or they're all remote, or there's a mix of part-time and full-time, it can get very difficult to really establish that culture of high performance, of ownership, of loyalty, of obligation, where the people are there because they want to be there. And I think one of the most important things I just said is you have to promote a sense of obligation. And while that sounds a little funny, what that means is the people are there and they're doing what they want to do because they feel like they have an important role in it and they have responsibility. And that's where the obligation really comes in. And I was reading about this term. It's called philatimo. It's a Greek word that means the love of honor, of family, of community, of country, of nobility. And what it really points to is establishes a sense of right and wrong. And a lot of that piece gets defined when you have that vision, what we call our living vision, that we help our clients with, because it's an internal vision. It helps everybody understand how they are a part of the overall business strategy and where the business is going. So the vision sets that up. Your mission statement sets that up. Your core values set that up. So these are all very important foundational pieces without which you can't really set up the culture, because otherwise it'll just kind of be this free-flowing thing that nobody defined, that nobody's paying attention to, and that nobody is cultivating. Because a culture is not something you just set up. It has to be implemented, it has to be supported, it has to be guarded, and it has to be cultivated. So when we set up this sense of right and wrong, that means we are all here. We all have an obligation to one another to make things better. And when you think about that's the true meaning of team, is we're all working together. We are working cohesively. We are all one of the same, and we're all responsible for ourselves and for each other. So we have an obligation to one another to make things better. So it's kind of establishes this sense of duty to do what's right, and not because somebody tells you to, or because there's some sort of pressure, but because it's the right thing to do and you inherently believe this. So your team has to inherently, you have to inherently believe it, and your team has to inherently believe it. So the grand summary of this is living with integrity. And when we all operate like that in a company, it means it reflects positively on the team, on the family, on the community, on the organization, and as a larger sense, on the society. So that term philotimo is a powerful philosophy for really valuable business results. So when you think about, I certainly hope that all of you have really powerful core values set up. But this piece is your core value, without which nothing works. Because when you think about that, how do you set up a culture of ownership, a culture of respect, a culture of loyalty? It means that every single person on your team has to buy into this. So this very core value really helps you to attract, retain, and inspire anybody on your team, whether they're there right now or you're hiring them, they're coming onto your team. Because when we really think about it, most people want to do the right thing. You don't have to make them, you don't have to teach them. Most people inherently want to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. They are thoughtful and they want to make sure that they contribute at a high level and that they're acknowledged and appreciated for what they do, that they have significance in the company. Comes right back to human needs theory. But all of this goes around and around. It's a cycle with your powerful internal living vision, your core values, and having that mission, vision, value cycle set up, because it keeps reflecting that. It means we are all shareholders. We're all responsible. We all benefit. We all have respect for one another. We're here to harness the collective experience and wisdom, because as a team, we can do so much more than each of us individually. And we will all prosper when this is respected and executed. And what goes with all of this, once we have this set up, once we're implementing this, once this is something that we consistently focus on with our team, a huge piece that helps people operate within this structure is having empathy. And empathy doesn't mean you just accept people's stories or excuses. It means we recognize the impact of our actions. So one way to help people who are not necessarily really high performers or who are not quite fully bought into the culture to get on board with that, to get on the same page, is to enable them to see reality from somebody else's perspective. And that's this empathy piece. So when you're looking at how to make improvements to your culture, how to make improvements to how people behave and how they show up, it's really important for them to recognize how their actions impact another. We teach our clients this incredibly powerful construct of how to give feedback. And one of the steps is reflect the impact that their actions are having on you, on the rest of the team, on the organization as a whole, on the clients, on everybody else. Because believe it or not, a lot of people don't realize that a seemingly small thing that they're missing, they're showing up 5 minutes late, it's not a big deal. But those 5 minutes, once that's extrapolated, it means hours of wasted time for everybody else in the rest of the organization because they had to wait. And those 5 minutes turn into 50 minutes, turn into 5 hours, turn into multiple days. So to kind of promote this sense of empathy and understanding each other, one really good practice can be to help people see into somebody else's perspective. So this could mean, for instance, as an example, if you have somebody on board who missed a deliverable, which significantly impacted another department, or they didn't do their job quite to the highest level of quality, is for them to get invited into that department and work alongside somebody that is having to deal with the impact of their actions. So now they're experiencing firsthand what it's like to be on the receiving end of something that didn't get executed quite right. So that is an opportunity for them to recognize, hey, like I matter, what I do matters, it contributes or fails the structure of the company, the overall company strategy and the overall company results, and it impacts my fellow humans and makes their lives really unpleasant. So helping people recognize the impact of their actions by stepping into somebody else's shoes and perspective can be incredibly powerful. So that's one way to really get the buy-in into a higher level quality work and higher level quality mindset and being. Another way to really make sure that you promote that culture is to promote from within. So when you have open positions, when you have the right skill set and the right talent on board, and that's a big caveat, because I don't want to encourage you to hire from within just because you want to do that, but then you don't get the right talent on board. But let's say that you have talent, you have incredibly high human potential that can be nurtured, that can be grown. You want to promote internally first, and then you want to go external and find somebody else from the outside if you really cannot. But what this principle of Philatema also means that with the right culture, with the right mindset, with the right drive, the right hunger, anybody can be who they want to be. So if they really want it, if they really need it, and any of you who have worked with us before or who've listened to a lot of our contributions here understand that want it and need it piece, that if it's not there, it's never the right fit. That person is never the right fit on your bus. But if it is there, people can do whatever they want to do. So they can achieve it. They can become their best version of themselves and the highest version of themselves. And so when they're steeped in your culture and they're going through this, they're going to help you promote the culture, guard the culture, and really expand the culture like that. So that is really the larger context for being the best. And honestly, it's up to you to give this to them and to promote this, because you are the guardian of your culture. As the CEO, it starts with you, it ends with you, and you're the one, although you have many soldiers around you, many extensions of you, which are the rock stars on your team, you're the one who everybody is looking to for an example. So you want to make sure that your leadership drives this value. So that means you drive this value with your leaders, and you make sure that they drive this value with their teams. So it can't just stop at you and your leaders. It has to be something that gets really dripped through the entire organization. So this happens on every single level of the organization. So it's everywhere. And one way to make sure that this culture stays alive, that people buy into it, that people live by it, it is also having the most face-to-face contact that you can have. People hide a lot in digital contact, especially when we have remote culture, a lot of remote teams, distributed teams. This gets more difficult. So do you always fly everybody in to talk? No, not necessarily, but video conferencing really does make a lot, or getting on the phone on a live phone call is a whole lot better than email, Slack, any of this digital contact that's fairly one-sided. So we want to have a face-to-face interaction as much as possible, because it promotes more transparency. People are going to be more honest with each other when they actually have to look into each other's eyes or hear each other's voices. And it promotes more connection, and it promotes more follow through. And those are really the things that we're looking for. We want the transparency, we want the connection, and we want the follow through, because that makes sure we really have this culture go through all the levels in the company. Another thing that helps when we are implementing this value, and when we are making sure that this value is actually part of our daily interactions and attitude, is to tell stories about real life examples for where this core value has come into action, where it played out, how we've seen it promoted in this company, how we've seen it make a difference, make an impact in this company. So this sense of culture, of loyalty, of philatimo, how it makes a difference. So you want to tell stories about how this shows up, because that makes it relatable. It makes it memorable. It makes it for people so that they can really see themselves, reflect to themselves how this will be and would be when they're living this. And another really big power move is to include your team members' families, their loved ones, into this culture. Because the more you include something that's meaningful, that's emotionally connected to them, the more they're going to buy into it, because the more they're going to get it from all sides. So when you're having any type of event, when you're having even virtual meetings that are not just business focused, you want to invite people's spouses, kids, friends, important, significant others, whatever it is, so that this culture of ownership, of loyalty, of philatimo really gets executed on all levels of their lives, as well as all levels of your company. So if you are ever tempted to not pay attention to your culture, or you think not having a culture is not a big deal, it is. Nothing can happen without this, because this is how people behave when nobody's looking. When this is executed right, and when it's something that you guard very preciously, it also means you're not always going to be the one who has to make sure that people act right because they're acting right, because it's just the right thing to do. So I hope this helps. If you need more insight into this, we have a brand new training out at bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com, bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com. And once you go through that, you can also book a time with us so that we can help you face to face. So I wish you all the best. Have a fantastic week, and I will talk to you next time.